Hello, dwellers, and welcome to the basement. As you know, obviously, judging by the last several videos I've been posting today, I've been doing a binge watch marathon of episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6 of Black Mirror's third season on Netflix. Originally, my plan was to do one episode a day all this week. I did episodes 1 and 2 on Monday and Tuesday. Then I had to take a trip to the ER and basically trying to get all my ducks in a row and accomplishing everything that I wanted to accomplish this week with this uh, little marathon here. So it's been a fascinating day, to say the least, considering a number of the ideas and technological issues and things of the nature that was presented in the third season of Black Mirror. Now, the sixth and final episode of this season, titled Hated in the Nation, without question, is the most ambitious Black Mirror episode produced to date. I believe it's the longest. Actually, without question, it's the longest episode. It's damn near 90 minutes. It's a practical made-for-TV movie. Um, but the title easily could have been called "Bees, My God," or because basically the tech in this particular episode, it comes down to being a deadly bee weapon. And without question, it brings up memories of the Nicolas Cage version of The Wicker Man, where at the very end he's going, Not the bees. Okay, I can't do a Nicolas Cage, but I can do a pretty damn good Batman. In all seriousness, this episode really does follow up on thoughts that I had earlier tonight regarding episode 5 and how the military will want the mass implants to create the perfect soldiers to dehumanize them against the enemy, or or, or have the enemy dehumanized in front of the soldier. So there's this way, like everyone shoots, everyone goes for the kill, blah blah blah. It's like, and everyone performing to quote unquote the best of their abilities. In this episode, we see how any government, any government, will want a perfect way to spy on a nation, on their own nation, surveillance, and there are some benefits to that, and they do bring that up in this episode. But it's really more like taking advantage of using something that's safe to help the environment. In this case, artificial bees. My God, uh, that has basic pattern recognition software for uh, the purposes of pollination. Excuse me, and how, because this is a technological marvel, how a smart enough self-righteous nutcase could take control of it to push in its own way, a rather justified moral message about the spread of fear mongering and hatred on social media, turning it in a way to create a database for those who will give in temptation to see, is like, to quote unquote take someone out because of something they said, did, or said or did, excuse me, either online, in public, etc., etc. Now, in wake of a lot of the nonsense that we have seen in the past couple of years, this certainly opens up a few eyes. Because, hell, just look at Twitter itself. Over the course of, let's say, the past 6 or so months, so we have seen Twitter cave in to the pressure of left-wing nuts to basically target and remove those who have right-wing nut point of views. Uh, now, now imagine if this was done in a way that was perceived in this episode of Black Mirror, where it's basically weaponized, for lack of a better term. Now, imagine if all those who took part in the removal of someone is revealed as the whole, and the whole, those who did the en masse fear mongering, the en masse hatred, and etc., and so forth, basically the ones who pushed for it to happen, basically took part, they end up being the ones uh, uh, seeing that this whole thing turned around on them, because while one person can say and do something or other, you can disagree with them and so forth, you get a whole bunch of people pushing an angle. That's a mass spread of fear, mass spread of hatred, mass spread of cruelty, which take things to a whole nother level. So this episode kind of explores that here. Like, who's the real danger? The one person who may or say or do something stupid, or a mass group of people who basically does that. So it again kind of uh, raises the bar, raises the stakes here, and it's quite terrifying when you really think about it. Now, the episode itself, the story here, is basically told in the style of a flashback. DCI Karen Park is explaining to a committee about everything that went down on the case that she was on, that began with a journalist who was the target of online comments due to a column she wrote, and then out of the blue, you know, offs herself. But it turns out it's part of a larger scale scheme by the former employee of a company that created these artificial drones to counteract a collapse of the bee population. Because bees are important for spreading pollen, for pollination purposes, plants, and all that good stuff. Now, Park and her new partner named Blue, who worked in the cyber forensics, investigates the mystery, and we see the process step by step, from realizing who's the next target to trying to protect that person, um, uh, because people took offense to this other target doing something on a war memorial, and we see them discovering the bees database, and discovering who the real culprit is, and his quote unquote end game, to basically uh, let the people pick who should be taken out. And then, of course, as the his end game is to have those investigating this mystery, to, as they shut down what his his project, for lack of a better term, it ends up seeing about nearly 400,000 people who contributed to the deaths of 3 people, because they quite literally voted for them being taken out. And the aftermath being that Park ends up being a hated public figure because she was investigating it, and her partner Blue disappearing, but instead going off the grid to find the actual culprit and to quote unquote get him. Uh, and my summary doesn't do the story much justice, because it's extremely well paced and it keeps the viewer invested. Plus, if one pays attention, there are a lot of Easter eggs throughout this, to previous episodes of Black Mirror, kind of showing that kind of revealing that everything does have a shared continuity within it. In particular, Blue was the one who cracked the case that led to the events in the episode White Bear. Somehow that episode keeps coming up as a watch to it, because apparently it ties in quite well. But there were references to stuff like playtest and snow globes throughout the season, and things that were synonymous with previous episodes keep popping up. Now, of course, as you know, as I've been going through is talk about the summary of the my thoughts on the cast rundown, at least the primary cast. We had basically 3 leads, 2 primary, and there was a third I'll talk about briefly. Kelly MacDonald, who was in both Transpotting films, Nanny McPhee, was a regular on Boardwalk Empire, as Park, is a great lead. She portrays the character as an old school way of thinking criminal investigator, who's basically has seen all the usual ways how things turn out. She's a little patronizing, but this is due to her experience being, a cop on the beat. Faye Marcy, or Marseille, She was on Game of Thrones. She was also on the Doctor Who Christmas special Last Christmas. Is stellar as Blue, someone who wants to prevent crimes from happening and figures the best way to do it, particularly after uh, being the one who cracked the case that led to the events of White Bear, as I mentioned earlier. She wants to be out there, and what she ends up getting is an experience uh, that's kind of life changing for her. Gets that wide open point of view that she was basically as the world works, and also takes a little bit of a guilt trip because it's her expertise that kind of leads to the massive fallout at the end, but at the same time she was doing her job. The third lead here is Benedict Wong. He was in Doctor Strange as Wong. He was in Marco Polo, Law and Order UK for a couple of episodes. He brings a nice rounded performance to his character of Sean Lee, an officer of the National Crime Agency, who tries, he's like the equivalent of, I guess, actually, I'm not sure what the equivalent of the NCA would be here in the United States. FBI, CIA, NCIS, I'm not sure. Try to keep things hidden, keep things classified while also contributing to the investigation. And he's trying to juggle, balanced service multiple masters, considering his various responsibilities. And despite, again, he is the one who actually presses the button at the end, obviously thinking it's the right thing to do, but so you can't really dislike him, because and these three definitely have a perfect triangle in terms of the points of views and the way they view things in the investigation to stop this deadly bee weapon. So all in all, this was definitely a fascinating episode, and oh boy, certainly opens up your eyes and makes you think, as you can tell, as it did with me. So overall, what did I think of Black Mirror season 3? With the exception of really Shut Up and Dance, this was certainly a fine collection of episodes. Because Shut Up and Dance, the third episode, was just freaking weak. And while I didn't totally care for Men Against Fire, at least it had an interesting concept to work with, combining two things, and again made you think. As obviously there are a number of other parallels from that episode here in this episode that certainly get fleshed out here. And so I'm looking forward to when Netflix posts season 4 sometime in 2017, and I think I'll do the same thing. Do one episode a day when those episodes get uploaded. And I think I might make that a thing with Netflix and shows that come out, and talk about each individual episode outright. It certainly would make things a lot more coherent, if you will, or at least that'll be the intention. So with that said, I am going to take a little break, stretch the proverbial legs, and and then we'll be back before midnight for sure to talk about an episode of Star Trek Voyager that kind of ties into New Year's called 1159. Which of course will make it the last video I'll do for 2016. So, till a little bit from now, my friends, and of course you are my friends, continue to enjoy New Year's Eve as we count down to 2017.